This episode of The Harmonious Gentleman is brought to you by our friends at Blind Man Brewing, the most awarded brewery in Canada. They brew innovative, high-quality, and flavorful beer while working for sustainability through their green initiatives. Blind Man Brewing hosts all kinds of harmonious fun at their beautiful tap room in Lacombe, Alberta. Live music, cornhole leagues, wonderful tacos, or a refreshing pint with friends. There's always something fresh and tasty at Blind Man Brewing.
Podcast episodes were the number of home runs hit by the Oklahoma Sooners women's softball team to set the NCAA Division I record for home runs in a season. You know this has to be episode 162 of The Harmonious Gentleman.
I kind of miss the darker ones actually now.
I'm trying to find something cheery and not just like a number of people dead in an earthquake or something.
Yeah, home runs in a year?
Home runs in a season.
Nice.
How many games? 50 games. They had 162 home runs.
I don't know much about softball. Maybe I should, but less home runs more than baseball.
Don't know that.
You should have. Yeah, you don't worry.
But one lady, their back catcher, also in the same season set a single season record for an individual with 52 of her own home runs, I do believe.
Wow.
Good for her.
Yeah.
I think we've asked this question about like professional baseball, but could you hit one of their pitches?
No. There's no
NCAA
way. In softball?
Softball. And
wow.
The mound is quite
fast
close.
Pitch. This is like, the arced.
No, this is fast.
This is fast. This is like the big windmill.
You think there's lob in it for those?
In NCAA?
Well, what's the difference between fast pitch and softball?
Well, softball, it's underhand.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
fast.
it's the windmill. Yeah. No, I couldn't hit it.
Okay. Because the speeds are fairly
I
close
couldn't hit
to
the
baseball.
lob is where I was going with that.
No. That's why we don't do sports episodes very often, because we don't know what the hell we're talking about. But I know what we are talking about.
Okay.
First of all, our names. I know those. You're Chris.
Thank you.
I'm Tyler.
Yeah, and I'm Graham. And we're sitting at Fennec Coffee and Social in Calgary.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
It's nice.
Yeah.
Nice vibe. Bricks on the wall and brown chairs. It looks pretty good.
Yeah. And no one seems to be fazed that we're doing this. No one seems to care.
I have one criticism.
Yeah.
You know how some chairs squeak really loud when you move them? That's happening here.
It's
but other than that, it's great.
Washed cement floor, yeah.
I could scrub the sound out later, but maybe I'll just keep it in for the ambience. Yeah.
Do it.
Okay, well, we are here for a reason that we'll get to in a moment. But you guys, let's just kind of jump into our recommendations today. The inbox is almost overflowing, so let's just leave it for now.
Okay.
Chris, you can go through it later and pick some of the finer emails. But those of you who reach out to the show, we love you and we appreciate it very much. But Chris, why don't you start us off with a little round of recommendations before we get into this?
This is actually for Tyler specifically, but for our listeners in general. It's a podcast. It's called Search Engine with PJ Voigt. It's been out for a few years, but he has an episode called How Sad Are the Monkeys in the Zoo? And I think this would be a perfect episode to pair with our last episode about dogs. And Tyler, you especially will like some of the psychologist comments about captive animals and how concerned should we be about them. Like, for example, did you know that every great ape in a zoo in North America is on some cocktail of mood-enhancing drugs? I did not know this.
I didn't know that.
When I heard it, it made me sad.
Did you verify that?
It made me sad. Well, I should have, but
really,
this is what her claim is.
Because Tyler, you were quite concerned on the last episode about animals in captivity,
the mental
even your own
health
dog.
of our captive animals. Yeah.
So she makes a distinction between like a domesticated animal and a wild animal who's now in a zoo.
Okay.
And you'll just like some of the things she talks about. I think.
I'll check it out.
Check it out.
Okay. You have one time?
Yeah, it's an EP by Homeboy Sandman. We've talked about him on the podcast before. Had him on the podcast
and with
before.
him.
That's right.
But there's an EP. I don't even know how old it is, but it's called Tears of Joy, and I've listened to it so many times. And I would recommend, if you've been ignoring my musical recommendations for the last
and we know you
90% of the audience.
Yeah. This is the third time I'm recommending Homeboy Sandman, I think.
Yeah.
Just go to Tears of Joy and listen to the first song, and then let me know what you think.
Sounds good. I'll make mine really fast. Do you guys ever watch old movies to see if they're as good as you remember them being? So I watched Wayne's World last week. Can you guys guess?
It holds up.
Does it hold up?
I was going to predict not as good.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would say so. I would assume so.
Assume so. You assume correct. It holds up great.
I think so.
And I have a new appreciation for, like, just Mike Myers and Dana Carvey and like what their performances. Like, because when I was a kid, that's I didn't know them as actors. That was who I knew. But now knowing what else they've done and just how good they are, it's awesome.
Do you think that was peak Mike Myers?
I mean, I do prefer those movies over the Austin Powers ones, even though I like Austin Powers too. I doubt those hold up as well, though. I don't know. You guys watched?
I don't think the Austin Powers movies would hold up. They got away with a lot at the time.
I assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not canceled, but cancel adjacent.
Yeah, they would be if released today. I'm pretty sure there'd be some news articles.
I think I agree. Yeah. Anyway, I watched Wayne's World. It was great.
Nice.
And I forgot all the fourth wall breaking that they do.
Lots.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, and I completely forgot.
Deadpool, almost.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Mike Myers, for what you've given this country. Did he coin elbows up? Was he the first one to say that in that ad thing he did? I think that may have been him.
He was part of it for sure. I don't know if he coined it.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike Myers. And we are joined by a special guest, Nate Pike, this afternoon. So, Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And we'll get to why Nate is here in a moment. But, Nate, I kind of threw it at you last minute here. But if you have a recommendation for our audience, we'd love to hear one.
I mean, I'm conflicted. I really want to do the the new Nine Inch Nails album, but I'll do the one that I originally said, which is a book by Robert S. McNamara called In Retrospect. And for anybody who's unfamiliar with him, he was one of the key figures in the 60s with the Kennedy administration and the Johnson administration. And the way the book juxtaposes the successes of the Kennedy administration, and particularly the successes of interacting with other institutions versus the Johnson administration, is really, really quite insightful. And I would make the argument that anybody who wants to be part of any large sort of institution, it should be required reading, because it really does do a very good job of highlighting the human failures that exist in large organizations. And I think it also lays out a bit of a roadmap as to how to avoid them. So it's a really, really good book. Everybody hates him. I think he's dead now. But
when was that
the money won't go to him?
Like, how far after?
There's multiple versions of it.
Yeah.
I think I'm reading the third edition right now. I'd have to check the front page. But he published the first one, and a lot of people went, "Whoa, you're just trying to make yourself look good again," because he was vilified by a lot of people. Yeah. And so he did little additions and sort of little corrections where he'd speak to other people who were involved in the decisions and sort of flesh out the things there. There's actually a really, really good documentary movie that's based on the book. The name escapes me at the moment, but it's if you Google Robert McNamara documentary, it is one of the best films I've ever seen. So I'll bookend that in on the end there.
3 recommendations, really.
Awesome. You nailed that.
Really snuck in the Nine Inch Nails one too.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm going to give a listen. We should listen on the way back today.
That's so good.
Yeah. Sweet. Thank you, Nate. All right. So I reached out to Nate to join our podcast, you guys, because I've been following your stuff for years. So Nate, I mean, podcaster, you've got a YouTube channel. I mean, would you say podcaster? Like, what?
I don't. This is sort of some debate.
Yeah.
Because I have been accused of being a podcaster. I've been accused of being a YouTuber. I have been accused of being a journalist.
Yes.
I've been accused of doing sketch comedy. I probably have to accept responsibility for all of those things in some capacity.
Okay.
But the work that the breakdown does definitely blurs the lines between all of those things, which is, I think, one of the reasons why some people really like us and some people really don't like us.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, I should mention that it is called The Breakdown. That's your channel name. That's your. Okay. Well, we'll talk to you a bit more about that. But thank you for joining us. I'm glad you're here, and you guys, we're going to get into it after the break. Sound good?
You bet.
Sounds great.
All right.
This segment is brought to you by Cilantro and Chive. Delicious, creative dishes, a huge variety of locally crafted drinks, and with locations in Lacombe and Red Deer, they're making 2 communities more awesome. Check out their mouth-watering Burger of the Month, a rotating menu item that satisfies your hunger and supports local initiatives and charities. Cilantro and Chive. Fresh, simple eats.
Well, Nate, thanks for joining us once again. We're going to start off with the way that we quite often ask our guests when they're joining us. Who are you? Where have you been? And where are you going? A little freedom there and how you want to answer that.
Yeah, there's a lot to work with there. I mean, who am I? I wear a lot of different hats. Arguably, I'm sure some people would say too many. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. I'm a paramedic. I'm a host of the Breakdown, the executive producer of the Breakdown, for what those titles are worth. And yeah, that's. I'm a punk rocker. I'm a shit disturber.
Yeah,
lots of different hats.
Those all go together quite nicely.
Yeah, well, that depends on how you measure it, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And so, I guess in terms of what you do now and why we're talking today, where have you been, and where are you going?
I mean, it's been a wild ride for me. If we go back all the way back to my early youth, I was a big church kid. I grew up in the Anglican Church, and that was a big part of my culture and my identity and all of those things. And then I had some light bulb moments that made me realize that institutionalized religion were perhaps not the best fix for me. So I immediately gravitated to punk rock, as you do. And I grew up in the punk scene in Calgary. With that came all of the sort of activist, political rage stuff, and the 90s were great for that. I mean, we grew up, my scene, I'm dating myself, but my scene was very much sort of the CanCon punk rock scene in Calgary in the early 90s, mid 90s. And so there was lots going on there. We had lots of problems with Nazis, and we dealt with those. And
the Nazis never came back. End of story.
Yeah, and that was the end of the problem. And then I went through a phase where I was studying broadcast journalism at Mount Royal University. Studied a couple other things. It took me a while to find my footing in post-secondary. Ended up doing corporate management for a bunch of years. Realized I got tired of running my soul through the dishwasher every night when I came home. And it was actually my wife who recommended I get into EMS. So I got into EMS, became a paramedic. And concurrently with that, to some degree, I also got into more organized politics because I could see the rise of Jason Kenney coming and it scared the crap out of me. A couple of unsuccessful runs, and then really just sort of realized with one of my political campaigns, I produced like educational videos on the topics because there's so much misinformation. And when I finished getting my ass handed to me in the elections, I had a bunch of people reach out and say, like, are you still going to do those videos? And I was like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And so there was a group of us at the beginning. There's still a group of us now, different group, but and we just started doing like, so what's going on in Alberta politics? And we started filming it in the empty lot where my community was supposed to have a high school. And we had
Nice. That's awesome.
I like that.
we got like the old-timey wooden desks, and we would do all of the interviews in the middle of the field with these old-timey wooden desks.
What year would that have been roughly when you started doing those kinds of things?
2019, 2020.
Okay.
Because we got into it right after the ass kicking, the great ass kicking of 2019. And it's just sort of that begat the Breakdown, and it's just sort of evolved into whatever it is now, and it's been an absolutely surreal journey for some of the things that the Breakdown has been a part of, some of the things that the Breakdown has arguably accomplished. It's a baffling mess.
Yeah.
Do you have a vision or goals for where it's going to go, or are you just kind of riding the wave?
I mean, like, here's the thing. If you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, I probably would have said, well, I'd like to continue to build the audience and rent. But if you had told me 2 years ago that the Breakdown would do a pseudo-investigative report on a procurement scandal and break that story provincially and nationally, and that I would then get sued for $6 million by the figure at the center of that, and that I would then, along with the CEO of AHS, former CEO of AHS, a former board member of AHS, be the target of a sustained campaign to destroy our reputations. arguably orchestrated by some of the highest levels of government, my reaction would have been like, let's go to the hospital. You sound like you might need some help. And that's the reality that I'm living in. So trying to predict what's going to happen a week from now, I mean, I'm going to keep doing the show, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Did that experience, which is ongoing, did that rattle you? How did that affect you mentally with what you were doing? Because, I mean, I guess I should say, too, did you see that coming at all? Like, when you put that story together, I thought you did a really good job. I watched that video.
Thank you.
Because we did an episode on that as well, and I watched your video a lot. But did you see it coming? Were you surprised?
I mean,
or a little bit, maybe?
It was not the Breakdown's first time kicking the hornet's nest of provincial government.
Okay.
I mean, you guys are from Red Deer, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a company in Red Deer that does not like us very much because we broke another conflict of interest scandal a couple of years back that the ethics commissioner ended up doing a whole investigation into.
Okay.
And it ended up with a very Reagan-esque sort of like, yeah, this looks super bad, but nobody can remember what happened.
Yeah.
And so there was no...
Like a pleading the fifth kind of thing, you mean? Or
almost. Like, well, the Reagan joke's a little bit more Alzheimer's-y, but...
I see.
Nobody could remember how the materials got into people's hands that ended up in somebody getting a multi-million-dollar contract, which is in no way alarming.
Yeah.
But
so you'd had experience with this sort of thing before.
Yeah, I knew that we were poking the bear. I did not know the extent of the efforts to silence me and the show going back 2 years prior to that. That came out through the former CEO's statement of claim. But I knew that they weren't going to just la. There was going to be some pushback. I was shocked at the $6 million number.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get to that. The way that I like to say it, and it's a little glib, but the crux of the lawsuit at this point is largely the use of the word Tylenol.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Through the injunction, the judge who did the injunction. Yeah, that was the other part. And having my charter rights taken away for 2 weeks. I should have included
We know what that's
that
like.
in the
Experience with that. Oh, yeah.
the judge took a look at a lot of the stuff, and one of the things she was like, well, maybe, was the Tylenol joke.
Just the joke about terminology.
And so at the worst case scenario, I mean, I'm very confident about my position. I probably can't say more than that without my lawyers throwing rocks at me from downtown Calgary. But at the worst case scenario is I wrote a $6 million dad joke.
That's amazing, actually.
So you're obviously moving forward. Like do you feel motivated still? You feel,
I mean, most days, yes.
Yeah.
To be entirely honest, and I try to hold myself to that. Some days are exhausting. Like the rate at which the enshittification of politics in Alberta is happening is remarkable. In 7 years of covering Alberta politics, I haven't seen anything like the last 6 months. Ever before. And I like to do little gut checks with experts to make sure that I'm not too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And this is why I have conversations with people like Dr. Dwayne Brad and
you
other
do
folks.
really good work with those interviews, by the way.
I like talking to smart people.
Yeah.
And their continued shock and horror at the way that things are going in this province right now just sort of reaffirms oh no, okay, it's real. Yeah. It's real.
So you miss Jason Kenney is what you're saying?
Yeah, in a weird way. But the weird thing about
simple days of Jason Kenney.
It's true. But the weird thing about Jason Kenney, and there's a lot about Jason Kenney's politics that I did not appreciate. But he had respect for the institutions. He had respect for a lot of the norms. Not as much as I would have liked cough the Matt's cough, but. You knew what you were dealing with. And the other thing that I think is really important about the Kenney era is that they would listen and they would blink. There were times that I can point to in the Breakdown's timeline where we did a thing and they would course correct. And that's how it should happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we weren't always the most respectful about it because sometimes we used puppets. Haven't in a long time, but they would listen. And that to me is a critical feature of if you're going to be in a position of leadership like that. You have to be able to take the jokes, but you also have to be able to go, okay, maybe we're about to do a big thing badly, and that's absent with this.
But maybe you need to bring the puppets back.
That almost seems too lighthearted to me. That almost seems like
that's
it's
exactly,
too positive.
That's
almost.
the thing that I've been navigating is that it is very much like it gets real close to fiddling while things are burning.
Yeah. Just one more thing too. I had, and I'm on a list of things to ask you. Like, do you consider what you do journalism?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
The speech that I gave the audience after the injunction.
Yeah.
Was I reluctantly accept that there are times that what we're doing qualifies as journalism. I am, however, not going to stop voicing my opinion, and I'm not going to stop making jokes because I like doing those things.
Yeah.
And so,
But that's also more the style in which you're doing it.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And I had a bunch of journalists reach out after and during the injunction where they were like, no, you're absolutely a journalist and you just need to get over yourself and accept that. And I was like, that is the exact opposite way that I'm coming from this. Like, I'm trying not to take the term because I have so much respect for it. But the metric that university professor said, are you going outside and telling people that it's raining? Are you making sure that it's raining? You're a journalist. And I was like... Ugh, damn it.
Yeah.
So there are times, but there's also times where it's very much editorial, and there's also times where it's very much jokes. And the speech that I gave the Breakdowns audience was, y'all are smart. So I trust that you're going to be able to tell when Nate is opining. I trust you're going to be able to tell when we're trying to do something factual, and I trust that you're going to be able to tell when it's straight up satire.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to treat my audience like they're stupid.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like your upbringing and the things you were involved in. Like if you come from a religious background, maybe we call it prophetic when you're trying to speak truth into power, or a punk rock version where you're trying to protest what's going on around you. But is your audience, and whether that's the government or the people listening, has it changed in terms of what they're kind of even accepting as, we're okay with this?
I don't know. I try not to concern myself with that, which sounds weird, but like and this is where the punk rock ethos really comes in, because that's actually a really good observation, because a lot of punk rock is speaking truth to power.
Yeah,
and
it's a prophetic voice, I believe.
I wouldn't go prophetic, but
it's a warning. It's not a telling the future, but it's a warning of what could be.
I just don't want anybody thinking like, Nate thinks he's Jesus.
No, we won't claim that. It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I know how that story ends. I'm not a big fan of it. I think that there is for me, a big part of what is important with producing the show and using that voice is you have to be willing to say the things that you're saying. And if you start to tailor them in any way to a given audience, I think there's ways to be an effective communicator, and I do try to embrace those strategies and tactics. But I think that there's also like... Take a look at the last 2 weeks, for example, with this whole Liberal Party thing. I knew that there were going to be a lot of people who overlap between my audience and the audience of another podcast. And I knew that I was going to create some dissonance for some folks. Part of me went, oh, that makes it more fun. But part of me also acknowledged that this is going to be a challenging couple of weeks for folks because of the content. Should I do it? Absolutely. And if there's ever that moment of like, what if I alienate someone? That's when I lean into it even harder. Because like, I don't know if y'all know who Bill Hicks is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, spiritual touchstone.
You think so? Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, not when Bill was having a bad day and he went after his audience.
Yeah.
That's a bit too far for me. I don't have an interest in that. But that whole like, okay, if it means that I labor in obscurity, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Your job isn't to make your audience comfortable.
No,
that's not what your job
100%
is.
not.
And that wasn't what his job was.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be clear, Bill was much, much, much funnier than I am. But in regards to like that ethos, Man, that dude had it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, Nate, when I first reached out to you, I sort of thought, like you said, there's a lot we could talk about in terms of specific things happening in Alberta. And I was trying to clear away the noise and just maybe talk with you about one thing happening right now. And I kind of landed on the gerrymandering storyline happening right now. Is that cool if we just go there for a little bit? Maybe talk about one topic in particular. It is important. You've talked about it recently lots, and I think it's maybe something that maybe a lot of folks don't really know much about.
I would agree.
It's not getting the headlines.
Niche.
It's niche. The separatism stuff is taking all the headlines, and now the daylight savings, whatever it is, always something that's not actually important. And so if it's cool, we'll go there.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
This segment is brought to you by the King's University in Edmonton, Alberta. Check out King's brand new Bachelor of Kinesiology degree. This integrative, highly practical health sciences program is about preparing you for careers in human performance, sports, and biomechanics. If you have a passion for movement and exercise, visit kingsu.ca/kinesiology.
All right, so one of the things that has been in the news lately has been the proposed, I guess, electoral boundary changes in Alberta. Is that how you would call
Proposed is a fun word.
Okay.
It's loaded.
Okay.
But sure, yeah.
Sure. You've talked about it on the breakdown.
Yeah, a little bit.
And so why don't you just fill us in on what's being, I want to say proposed again, but what's being bandied about? What do you say?
I think some people don't even have some of our listeners might not know at all what gerrymandering is or what is happening, period.
I mean,
maybe start with in your eyes, what's going on right now with electoral boundaries.
Electoral boundaries at their core are pretty simple. There's historically, for the last election, there were 87 seats in the legislature. Each one of those seats is occupied by an MLA. That MLA represents a area of the province. And that's where the electoral boundaries part gets to be really important, because it's the area of the province that each MLA represents that is important. And ideally, you want each MLA to be representing an area that has shared problems, shared resources, shared infrastructure, shared all of those things. And every 8 years, there's an electoral boundaries commission that gets together to go, okay, well, the province has changed. We've had some people move in, we've had some people move out, we've had some new developments, we've got some new infrastructure. How do we redraw these lines?
Who is this committee? What MLA is? Oh.
It is not MLAs. It is bipartisan.
Okay.
So it's a chair is appointed, and then the NDP or the government appoints two people, and the opposition appoints two people, and then these people go out for a year and a half, and they talk to people all across the province about hey, what's important to you about your community, and that's what informs them drawing the maps that determine where are we going to have MLAs represent what areas. Normally, it is a fairly uncontested process. Up until January of this year, it was an uncontested process. And then in December, January, there was an interim report that was put out, and it was unanimously agreed upon. All of the members of the committee were like, yep, there's things that we need to work on in the future, but this is what we're going with. And sometime in between then and March, the two UCP-appointed members, and there have been allegations that they were heavily influenced by government. The two UCP-appointed members were like, what if we just busted out the crayons ourselves and we redrew all of the maps and we cut up all of the cities and we included cities with rural? And that raised a lot of red flags for people, because the concerns that exist, and bedroom communities are bedroom communities, I take nothing away from that, but the concerns that exist are they're not shared. The infrastructure that Airdrie uses is different infrastructure than North Calgary uses, for example. And so that's where the allegations of gerrymandering came in. And for anybody who's not familiar, gerrymandering comes from a term from, I think it was Texas, where a Texas senator decided that he wanted to redraw the lines so that he could absolutely win his next election. And the way he redrew the lines, everybody looked at the map and was like, wow, that looks like salamander.
Yeah.
And his name was Jerry. So thus we have gerrymandering. And so there's a lot of concerns, and it is not a good idea for any elected official to be able to choose their own voters.
Right.
That's just dangerous.
Well, and
full stop.
Red Deer is a really, good example of where the boundaries, the proposed boundaries don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Other than to benefit or to kind of move the voting power away from the city and into the rural part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what the concern was. There was the minority report, which was what the two UCP appointees changed their mind on and put in, and it's really important to highlight that. And then there was an additional recommendation made by one member of the panel who happens to be a judge. And the response from government was to say, rather than debate these proposals in the legislature, what if we just did it ourselves? And so they gave themselves the power to appoint a whole new committee, which they have majority votes on.
Right.
So it's predetermined outcomes, and they're going to go and redraw the maps. The response of government so far has been, trust us.
Can we, just to be clear, this has never happened before?
This has never happened before.
In any province?
Nope.
At any time?
Not that I'm aware of.
Completely unprecedented.
And the political scientists, like I had Dr. Dwayne Brad on the show a little while ago, and that's a really good conversation for anybody who's bored after this episode. But
we don't usually say that.
But it is unprecedented, and it is a tremendous subversion of democracy, because as soon as you give the people who are in power the decisions to the ability to influence how votes are going to be cast in the future, the notion that anybody is going to act against their own best interest, especially given the established track record of this government, is, I think naive is probably too light of a word by a country mile.
So it appears to be a complete conflict of interest. What's the argument that they're making that it isn't?
Trust us.
Okay.
That's it. That's really what it is. They're trying to say that the judge who was the single person who made the recommendation, and to be clear, if you read the report, which they're counting on nobody doing, it literally says in there, the majority of the commission want to see you recommend all of this, accept all of this stuff right now, add 2 more seats in the next election, and we'll go from there. Or maybe give the power to the commission in the future, the independent commission, not your own damn selves, to add more seats if it's deemed appropriate. But it needs to be arm's length. And the government's response was to, okay, so by arm's length you mean create our own commission, which we have majority voting control over, and then we'll just do what we want to do, but you can trust us to act in your best interests.
The part that really frustrates me about this is it feels like there's nothing we can do about it, right? Like, I think the way you phrased it was when we let a government take this kind of control, but we're not letting a government. Like, how do we? Is there any process?
Like with the Supreme Court? You know what I mean? Like, is there some sort of
there will be Supreme Court challenges.
Yeah.
Depending on, I mean, we haven't seen the maps yet. We don't know what they're going to do with their Crayolas.
Yeah.
But
will it be a salamander shape?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Depending on what they do, there's a very, very high likelihood that there will be Supreme Court challenges. But I kind of bristle at that, the notion that there's nothing that we can do. Because I think that there's a lot that we can do
to stop it from happening.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that they count on is passivity.
Yeah.
From a purely mechanical standpoint, can they do it? 100%.
Okay.
100%. Is there any mechanism by which to stop them before the next election?
Yes.
Part of that mechanics? No. Are there mechanisms available to stop it? Absolutely.
If we could can I try to predict what you're going to say?
Sure.
If we can mobilize enough people or get enough people engaged in the issue, that they don't believe it's in their best interest to do it.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we have all of these mechanisms that exist inside of our government and our political structure that are supposed to operate to make things work the best way possible. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to the Churchill quote about, I think it was Churchill, democracy is the worst form of government, but it's the best one we have.
Yeah.
So there's mechanisms that we've built as a society to try to maximize the best parts of it. But at the end of the day, it is all about, you're the elected official, how miserable can I make you? Like, if you do good things, I will reelect you. If you do bad things, I will come for you. And I will come for you in all of the ways that I possibly can, whether that is standing outside of your campaign office, whether that is writing letters. I would argue the most effective thing to do is talk to people who are not engaged in all of the things right now. Like, we started this segment out by talking about that it's an incredibly niche subject, and it is an incredibly niche subject, but I'd like to think that I was able to explain it in roughly 90 seconds. And if I can do that, anybody can do that.
Yeah.
And if people understand that this is not just about the boundaries, this is about them giving themselves control so that they can privatize healthcare. This is about them giving themselves control so that they can have control over the all of the social engineering that they're doing. And it's wild to me that the Conservative Party, that was like, oh, we have to stop the social engineering, immediately went to, and now we will social engineer. They are inserting themselves into doctors' rooms, doctors' offices across the province, period, end of sentence. They're limiting people's access to healthcare, period, end of sentence. This is how they get the power to do that.
Right.
So if you don't want them to have absolute power to do all of the batshit crazy things that they're doing, this is where you have to speak out.
So to me, you make it sound like this issue is ridiculously important.
It is impossible. Like, I have known Dr. Bratt he taught me poli-sci back in like 91. Or it might have been 92. Yeah. I've known him for a long time, and I hold him in very high regard, and he has a lot of love for democracy. He's got a lot of love for this province. And watching him have to process that this would be unthinkable, and they're going to do it. They're halfway through doing it. It's just a question of the maps now. Watching him see that happen and the heartbreak, that to me speaks to he's an impartial person. He's called me out on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
And when he's looking at this process, and when a lot of other political scientists, like Dr. Jared Wesley, Dr. Lisa Young, when they're all looking at this process and they're going, this is a nightmare. That is, I mean, the canaries are making their last little bit of noise while they can.
Yeah.
And they're lamenting what's happening.
Yeah.
Are they thinking it's too late?
I don't think Dr. Bratt will. Like, here's the thing: the pendulum always swings. It's just at what cost. So, is it ever too late? Are we looking at an extinction level event? I don't think so. Are there going to be a lot of people who get hurt before the pendulum swings the other way? Should we probably be trying to do something to prevent that hurt? Those are very different questions.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you later, but I'll just ask you now, because you spend a lot of time on Alberta politics and these issues. How do you deal with it mentally? Like, we talk a lot about, like, I got to unplug my phone for a week. I can't keep following this stuff. You're following it every day. You're interviewing people, right? Like, it's your part of your life. So how do you not give up to cynicism? And do you know what I'm saying? How do you are you a positive person? Like, what's your outlook?
So one of the things that I've learned through my work as a paramedic is I try not to be outcome based, which is a weird thing for somebody who's playing in the political observation game. But the big thing that sort of keeps me going is there are a lot of people who do not have the platform that I have, or who have other obstacles, who can't speak up. And so regardless of whether or not the bad things happen, letting people know you're not alone, letting people know that there's people who will stand beside you. Like the two live shows that The Breakdown did last summer, and I'm really excited for the live shows we're going to be doing this summer. They were such an affirmation of the importance of community and communication. That's what I choose to focus on. I don't care if Danny likes me.
Yeah.
That's not on my. I feel pretty safe.
Yeah.
She does not.
No. I'd probably agree with that. It's kind of a badge of honor, honestly.
I mean, allegedly she tried to have me fired twice. So
Yeah, allegedly.
Okay. I did want to ask that, like, in your role working for AHS would be your employer.
Yeah.
Like, has that been a issue that you've heard any rumblings about, or
It's
you
been
just imagine what that might look like?
Other than allegedly the premier tried to have me fired twice, which is wild because I didn't even know. And this is where, like, there are some really good people who work in some really important positions, and I think that needs to be, like, Danny's powers are not absolute.
Right.
And I had no idea. Yeah. I had no idea that she had allegedly tried to have me fired via her chief of staff until the statement of claim dropped by the former CEO. I had a bunch of people reaching out to me the day before being like, hey, did you know you're in the Thana's statement of claim? And I'm like, she's like 16 pay grades above me. Why? What?
Yeah.
And then the statement of claim dropped, and I got like 16 copies in the first 5 minutes. And I was like, what in the shit is this? And I actually had a conversation with my bosses and with the union, because I was like, how do I proceed with this? Like, there's nothing actionable here because she wasn't successful,
right.
But like, I'm that guy now. And like, are there rules for being that guy? This is actually weird.
Yeah.
Cool. I do have to say that the support from the people that I work with has been overwhelming. I think that the severely normal Albertans who, I mean, it's another Streisand effect thing. It's like the lawsuit where you decided to make a great big example of something, and all that did was drew attention to the bad thing that you were trying to do.
Right.
And so, like, from across the political spectrum, there are people at work and also people in the political landscape who we will go toe-to-toe all day, every day. We will never agree on many of the issues, but they have stepped forward and been like, yeah, no, this is bullshit, though. Like, I hate everything you do. I hate everything that you stand for, but this is bullshit. And that, to me, has been really, it's really reinforced that there are shared values. And if we use those as a starting off point, I think that's where we can make some progress.
Yeah. On the drive here, I was reminded of a quote my dad would say once in a while. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know who to attribute this to, but I might not agree with you, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it, kind of. So, do you think we still have? Does that sentiment still exist in your opinion? When we try to be harmonious in the way we address a conversation, not necessarily the fact that we all want to agree on something, but that a topic can actually even be talked about. Through what you've been through, like, is that even still possible?
I think it is. I certainly saw it in the lawsuit and with the injunction. There were a lot of people who reached out who I'm politically diametrically opposed to, and they agreed that this was a abuse of process and abuse of system. And I think that makes a really important starting off point.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that we're bad at doing is having conversations. I think 9 times out of 10, one of the things that people do is they start with, this is my opinion, and I am right, and you are wrong, or if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, and that's where I'm going to stay. And I think that that's a profoundly flawed way of approaching conversations. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the things that we talked about in sort of the pre-interview was how much I love engaging with First Nations elders, because I always get schooled and I always learn something, and I love that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that we've sort of stigmatized, air quotes, being wrong, to the point where people are terrified of learning something. And those two things, those Venn diagrams overlap quite nicely. And I think if people take the approach of, if I'm wrong about something and I learn something, that is not a sign of weakness. That is a sign of strength and growth. we don't frame things that way. All too often, if somebody makes a mistake or if somebody is demonstrated, for whatever that's worth, to be wrong, everybody does a victory lap and goes loser, and I don't think there's any value in that. I think that if you're able to have a conversation with somebody where you or they are able to move your viewpoints or your perspectives based on new information, that should be celebrated. The only people that I don't have time for are the ones that are immovable. And that goes, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. If you come into a conversation as this is absolute, then I don't know what we're going to talk about because you've already made up your mind. So if you just want to sermonize, then go start a church.
Yeah. I think we get, and we, just the collective in general, people want to go to those polarizing topics because that's where they are, like, they feel strong. They feel like I can go into this and win this fight. But what I'm not saying that's what we should do. I think we should go to the common ground, right? And you mentioned that earlier, where if people were informed or knew what the purpose of electoral lines are for, right? If they understood that, then we could have a conversation about it. But if I go into that conversation saying, look at what Danny's doing, right? And immediately go like, I'm going to fight you on this because I know that you're identifying as a conservative and you're never going to change that position, we're not going to get anywhere, right? But I'm just identifying, I think it's, even for me, difficult to go into a conversation and find that common ground. But I think I'm getting better.
I think you are.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's I don't disagree with you, but I think that there's also, like, to me, when people are entrenched, it comes down to two things. Fear is the biggest one, and apathy/ignorance is the other one. So and I think that there's a lot of common ground to be found. Like, and even with the questions of Danny, to me, it's not a function of should there be, do we want Danny to have this power? To me, it's a function of, do we want anyone to have this power?
Exactly, yeah.
And that's
this isn't personal.
No, it's not. Well, I mean, a little bit.
Maybe it can get there.
Well, they made it personal.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did. For you.
But it's should anybody have that power? And this is one of the examples that I like to use because it's such an extreme example, is David Parker and I agree on that. David Parker and I agree that no government should have absolute power in that way. David Parker and I disagree on a lot of other things, to be sure. But the core fundamental principle is nobody should have that much power. And that's where I think if you use it as a starting off point, like Mr. Parker has all of his views towards the LGBTQ2S plus community. All of them are wrong. But for me, I look at his views and they come from a place of fear. They come from a place of not having full understanding. And so if we're having the conversation about gender affirming care, for example, that conversation should be framed to me in, what are you afraid of? Do you not trust the doctors? Do you not trust the medical evidence? Because that's a separate conversation. That has nothing to do with gender affirming care. If you don't trust medicine, if you don't trust doctors, that's a whole separate conversation. If you're picking and choosing what you are not wanting to trust in medicine, then we're talking about fear. And if we're talking about fear, then what is it you're afraid of? Well, I don't want my kids to turn out that way. Okay, have you tried talking to them? That's a very effective way to stay abreast on what's going on with your kids. If you're not doing that, if you don't have that relationship with them, instead of presenting yourself as an expert on things for which you are not an expert, maybe just try talking to your kids.
Nate, have you, in your interviews, because you do a lot of interviews and stuff, how often do you reach out to UCP members or attempt to have conversations? Do you try to? Do you reach out?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. One of the rules that I have, because over the years I've sort of built this set of rules of engagement. One of the core rules is, do I believe this is going to be a good faith conversation? And if I believe it's going to be a good faith conversation, 100% anybody can come on the show.
Yeah.
If I think it's going to be a bad faith conversation, then absolutely not. I'm not going to just give you a platform so you can spout bullshit. If it's going to be a good faith conversation, 100%.
And that's a judgment call on your part based on what you've seen and heard, based on...
And what I like... Let's use Danny as an example, because she's easy.
Yeah.
I have not seen an interview with her that is a conversation. I have seen an interview that is... All of her interviews are either regurgitations of scripted talking points or arguments. And I reached out to her press secretary a bunch of times, and I was like, I would love to have her on the show to talk about one topic and one topic only. Oddly, they don't respond to my emails. I don't know why. But I don't have an interest in having her on the show right now because everything is a lie or it's a manipulation. And that is exhausting to try to debunk. And so I just don't... If I've had Tim Hovan on the show, and he and I had a great conversation. He's gotten a little bit more extreme. I don't know if we would be able to have a great conversation, but I would be open to the possibility. That's the delineating factor for me.
Sure. Would you have Jason Kenney on?
I would.
Did you? Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I would want to limit the conversation to a couple of topics because one of the things that I find exhausting is you'll start with one thing and then the goalposts run all over the field. And this is not, to be clear, this is not something that is limited to conservatives. There are lots of progressive voices, air quotes on that, who do the same thing. And I don't have any time for it. Like, I don't care who you are. If we're just going to do a bullshit run around the field, then we're just going to do a bullshit run around the field. I don't have time for that conversation.
Yeah.
Quidditch.
Yeah.
I do have an email out to Jennifer Johnson from
you reached
my
out.
local representative.
Yeah.
I don't, hearing what you're saying, I don't know if I...
Well, we've reached out to our local MLAs multiple times because we often are told, like, where's your conservative
we're encouraged
interviews?
to
And it's
do
like they never do it. Like they just we've tried and they just don't do it.
Well, and that's one thing I will say. I appreciate like the UCP as a party. Their messaging is so tightly controlled, and they do have some people that are very good speakers. I do not like Dale Nally as a politician or how he presents himself to the public, but he's a very, very effective speaker. I'd say the same thing about Danielle Smith. But they curate who gets to talk to who and how. And like the wild thing to me is Danny likes to talk about how she likes alternative media and she likes podcasts. And every single one of the podcast interviews that I've seen her do have been with the very conservative leaning. And they're always like, you're so awesome. Can you tell me how you got to be so awesome? Because you're the most awesome ever. And that's not a conversation. There's a term that I would use for that, but I'll try to keep it PG.
I was just thinking pandering, but it's...
Yeah, that's a much better word than
rhymes with.
But that's who they engage with. So again, it's even the idea that they're engaging with independent media is bad faith because they're engaging with the independent media that's going to ask the questions that they want and say the things that they want to say. The NDP, and I'm not an NDP member, I'm not an NDP cheerleader by any stretch of the imagination, but they do take my phone calls. And I've had multiple members on the show, and I've held multiple, like I had Nenshi on about a month ago, and I held his feet to the fire on a couple of different things. And I have no doubts that if I was to reach out to their comms team again and be like, hey, can I have Nenshi on again in 3 months? They would say yes, because it's not that curated, quite as bad faith exercise.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned some live shows.
Yeah.
Do you have dates on those? Do you want
Not yet.
Okay.
This was going to be my final question too.
Yeah, because I want to go. I want to check it out.
I mean, it's one of the things that's challenging with the live shows is learning the nuance. So, for example, we did a live show in Edmonton. The turnout was so much better than I expected. I was like, we'll have 5 people, and maybe we'll play some board games. But it ended up like 2/3 of a 350-person theater got filled, and that was amazing. And it was a really good conversation, and it went way too long.
So when you say live show, is it recorded live and shown later, or it's like broadcast
no,
live?
It's like
You're on.
No, I broadcast live every second Sunday. But like for Edmonton,
but with an audience.
We went to the Orange Theatre in Edmonton, and we did an entire show, panel discussion there. We did another one in Calgary. I did not, for some reason, I was like, well, let's book it on this date because that works for me. And I was like, oh, it turns out that's the middle of Fringe Festival. That's an obstacle. So
No kidding.
it's those little things. But like one of the things that I really want to do is I've had people say, you should come to Red Deer. You should come to Fort McLeod. And I'd love to be able to do that. But the logistics are not insignificant. And the Breakdown's a small team. We don't do things for profit. We don't do advertising. Like there's every week I get somebody like, when are you going to monetize this? And I'm like, I don't want to. I don't want to paywall it. That's not the punk in me goes. And so there are self-imposed limitations. It's probably the best way to describe it. But we're going to be doing shows in Edmonton, a show in Edmonton this summer. I'm looking at probably July for Edmonton. Cool. And then August for Calgary, and we'll be promoting all of that over our socials. And then I'm hoping there's this really cool theater in Fort McLeod that's on my bucket list. And I'm hoping to get down there. There's a couple people from our audience who have said, we will make a show happen in Red Deer, just give us a date. And so like, okay, cool.
Okay.
Maybe David Parker will come and we can yell at each other.
Yeah, we can hold our mics up and just record the whole thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nate, for the conversation. We appreciate it.
Thank you
very much. And
We do.
This is the time in the podcast where we confess things to each other. And so if you want to stick around for that, you can. It's our last segment. We can bare our soul, we can get in trouble with our significant others, or we can just have some fun.
That's what I'm going to do today.
Are you getting in trouble today?
We'll see.
These are my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll catch you.
This segment is brought to you by Birdie Coffee. The team at Birdie Coffee is passionate about high-quality, locally made craft beverages. Enjoy a decadent latte, freshly roasted espresso, or something iced and delicious. Located in Red Deer, Alberta, Birdie Coffee Co. is a stop well worth making. But don't worry, if you aren't in the area, you can get their fresh roasted coffee beans delivered right to your door. Head to birdiecoffeeco.ca to learn more, or check them out at the Gasoline Alley Farmers Market, Thursday to Sunday.
Well, sometimes when you're hanging out with your friends and your buddies and your dudes and new friends, you want to just confess something, get it off your chest. Just get it out of your mind. Feel better about yourself, right, Chris?
Yeah, we'll see.
And it always works, right? We always come away from confessions feeling just
every time
like $1 million.
Yeah.
So, Chris, why don't you? It looks like you really want to get something off your chest today.
This happened today. I was at breakfast at the casino. Can I just plug the Red Deer Casino's $9.95 breakfast? It's delicious. And sitting, I didn't play any table games, but my wife has recently reminded me that there's some dripping in our sink in our ensuite. Mm-hmm. And I went out and bought the part, but it didn't match the aesthetic, I guess, of the sink that we have. So it's still in the package on the kitchen counter. And today at breakfast, my wife turned to her friend and said, "What are you doing today?" And she said, "Not much. Maybe you could come over and fix my dripping sink." And part of me died inside that I hadn't done my, what would you call that? A marital duty, a husband's duty to fix this. And now she's asking a female friend. I'm all about everybody can do anything, but it hurt a part of me. So I'm not sure what the confession is. That I didn't do it.
Or that you're like, you have a certain view of what masculinity is.
Maybe that's what it is.
Unpack that too, Chris. I'm a little concerned. Yeah. Would she have done that if you weren't in the room?
That's a good question. That's maybe her confession.
She needs to confess her passive aggressive.
Oh yeah, it was passive aggressive, but it landed, So anyway, I'm still reeling from that.
Don't we all have that one thing that we know we have to do and just start putting it off? I definitely have.
I think leaky faucets. I have about 3.
We're not talking about months and months. This is like 8 days ago.
Taxes due in 5 days. I haven't done the taxes. That's my thing, amongst many others.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Mm-hmm. That's so real. Mm-hmm. I love how you get real.
Yeah, I know. You want to go?
I can go quick. We talked about being harmonious. We always do. Finding common ground. I just feel guilty about, we mentioned this on the drive down here, there's a business close to where Tyler lives, like a big towing truck. I'm going to name them. What are they called? I'm naming them. I don't care. Downton. They're a big trucking company.
Yeah, trucking company.
And they have 3 giant flagpoles out front, and one of them is their own
company
flag.
Yeah.
And then it's an Alberta one and a USA flag. And that's
Alberta's
all
at the top. It's like a tiered thing, yeah.
And that's all they had. And I became like just not appropriately angry when I saw that. And I think my confession is I actually don't really know why that I know why surface level I get annoyed, but I had this deep anger that I should probably figure out because I don't know why it makes me so angry. Like, it's a flag. I understand they have their point of view. I disagree.
Would it help to know they're Americans living in Lacombe?
I don't care. Like, I just don't. In this political climate, I don't care where they're from.
In this climate?
I feel like they should not be here, maybe. But anyway, I'm never going to use their services. I don't want to get them as sponsors. So if they reach out to you, say no thank you.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, why I get so... I'm confessing it because maybe I don't feel like I should get that mad. I feel like I can be annoyed and I can... But...
Well, and if you think about what Chris, that quote from your dad,
yes.
from
that's
unknown...
Right.
I should look it up.
Like, that you'll fight for someone's right to say their piece. That's
like
kind of what they're just doing.
I don't think they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Like, but I don't think they shouldn't be allowed to. But I also don't want to see that.
It infuriates you, yeah.
Infuriates me.
I have to drive by that every day, Graham, and I noticed
when they changed it.
When
right?
it changed, like I was like, oh boy.
Boy, flags are a real hot button topic in this province right now. Hey, as teachers, I'm figuring out what can I put in my room next year that can skirt the line of what's going to be allowed because I really want to do something. I don't know
Doesn't
what
say about what like flags you can wear.
No.
You can
or
just wear
pictures
flags.
of flags.
Or
posters.
Posters of flags, yeah.
I really want to get I told you guys, I want to get one of like Daniel Smith looking like Kim Jong-un. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want. I want to put that right in the front of my room. I'm going to see if my graphic designing wife will make that for me. But that'll be a confession for next fall. Tyler, what do you got?
Well, I'm trying to decide if I one-up Chris on his number of leaky faucets.
You really should.
But... no, mine will be...
We'll allow you to have 2 confessions if you want.
Well, just that there's numerous like leaky faucets in my home that I've been saying I'll fix for a long time. But I'll say that I'm an Oilers fan. We're here in Calgary. I shouldn't say it too loud, but I'm an Oilers fan, pretty big Oilers fan. But my confession is that I kind of just want them to lose in this round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just want it over.
You're done.
Yeah, it's just kind of enough.
Like, let the heartbreak end early this year.
Yeah, it's just a lot of time and emotion and energy. Because if they go deep into the playoffs, my confession will be how invested I've been in the playoffs and how stupid I think professional sports are. And I'll confess those things later. So just put me out of my misery.
Avoid it. Yeah, let's avoid it. Just cheer for Montreal.
But sure. But I can kind of half-heartedly do it. That's just what I want. I want to be like a passive observer of sport. I don't want to actually have to care
Good
or
luck.
invest.
Yeah.
But
The Oilers are hockey, right?
Nate, do you have a confession for us?
Yeah, I'll jump in because I think it's you were talking earlier, and I don't know if I'm speaking out whether it was part of the podcast or whether it was part of the in-between. So if I'm ruining something, I apologize in advance. But the staying engaged with the politics question, it is exhausting. It is disheartening, and there are certainly days where I find myself going like, I just like enough, and it's hard, and it's wild to me. Like I am something of an F-list celebrity.
Is it F-list?
I chose that letter on purpose.
Nice. I love that.
But I know, like, I get people asking me, how do you keep doing this? How do you? And I get tired too. And it's on those days that I think it's so important to take breaks and give yourself the permission to just be like, you know what? I'm going to watch Star Wars or something like that, whatever it is. But like, it's. I think we do a really good job of removing the humanity from these sorts of conversations, and it is fatiguing. And there are absolutely bad days. There are absolutely days where, like, I look at my phone and I know that Twitter is Twittering. It will forever be Twitter. I don't care.
No, I'm with you on that.
And it's just like, you know what? I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to go play with the dog. Because we are living through historic times. And I think that makes it, in some ways, even harder for people to access because it's so big.
It's hard to think of it in context, for sure. Yeah.
The other confession that I would throw out there is, if you want to follow The Breakdown, all of our socials are just at The Breakdown AB.
Yes.
That's not a confession. We were going to ask you to do that anyway.
Yeah. No, that's not a
do that
confession.
one more time.
All of our socials are at The Breakdown AB. We do have a Patreon page. We do have a Substack. And really, if you're looking for the content, the Substack is probably the better place, and it's also just at The Breakdown AB. That's where more of our journalisty stuff lands. We have our YouTube. That's just at The Breakdown AB.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about the Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, our listeners hopefully spend lots of time on Substack already. So
Yeah, that's right. It's an easy switch over. We follow him on Substack.
We will
I
now.
think so.
We will now.
We have a love-hate. Well, we don't like social media. Like,
No.
we try not to use it personally, but we use it for the podcast.
That's my Like I have
And so-
my personal social media is boring as.
Yeah.
But
So we're not super. We want people to go there to access our content and yours. But don't ask me questions about how it works because I don't do very much.
And that's why we stay at like M list celebrity status.
Yeah, M.
Or,
Or Q.
or Q. I love the show Q, though.
Interesting, though, one of our fact checkers did reach out just to let us know who the original quote was for, I disapprove of what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Evelyn Beatrice Hall in 1906.
1906. Love that.
So it's a long-standing
I love that
sentiment
era.
that I hope we can still have.
Yeah. Let's work towards it.
The one kind of social media we love is Gmail or email.
Yeah, how do you get in touch with us?
Yeah.
Well, and we happen to use Gmail. harmoniousgentleman@gmail.com. Reach out.
Yeah. Multiple folks have reached out for some merch, and that's been taken care of, Chris. Have you been good about that?
I think all the requests have been handled.
Yeah.
And also, we were supposed to remind people to donate blood.
Yes.
So donate blood.
Right.
And my other confession is I had to cancel my last appointment. I feel terrible. Sorry.
We're thinking of listener Bob, too, who maybe I'm going to go donate in his honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Okay. So, Nate, you did talk about your socials and stuff. Anything else you want to mention before we go? Anything you want to plug?
I mean, the biggest thing that I would say is pick the one thing and then talk to people about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the advantage that the radicalized folks have is that they're comfortable talking to people about any. I was at Shoppers a couple of weeks ago, and this guy was like haranguing the poor cashier about his WEF liberal conspiracy, and I was like, do I step in? Do I not?
Yeah,
How weird do I make this? He eventually just sort of petered out of his own, but it's that sort of willingness to do not harass the Shoppers cashiers. To be clear, but it's that sort of willingness to engage with the people that you engage with about, like, hey, this electoral boundaries thing. This is a really big deal because if we start to have governments being able to choose themselves how they get to stay in power indefinitely, that's cool and everything, right up until it's a government that you don't agree with, and then you're screwed all the way. And so having those sorts of conversations, I think, is so critically important, and just be willing to have those conversations with the people with whom it's appropriate. Don't bug the Shoppers cashiers, though. That was
Shoppers cashiers have it tough enough as it is.
Trying to redeem my gift cards.
the expression on her face was just like, oh my God, please let this end. And he thought he was making headway.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
That self-awareness piece.
Okay, well, speaking of those conversations, thank you once again for joining us.
Yeah,
Nate.
thanks.
We
Thanks,
really
Nate.
appreciate
Nice to
your
meet
time. And we're going to see everyone next time
That's right.
on my favorite podcast,
The
Harmonious.
Gentleman.
Okay.
Harmonious gentlemen.
Right, excellent.
Excellent.